One thing that's been hard for me to figure out is how can I be sitting in this prison when I know that when someone walked into that gas station and murdered William Little, I was sitting in my living room, clear across town.
Is Jamie Snow just another guy sitting in prison who claims he didn't do it, or was he railroaded?
I'm a little nervous.
Our Andrea Isom traveled to the Stateville Correctional Center in Joliet, Illinois, to talk to the man many now think was used by police as a patsy.
Why railroad you this way?
I wish I could answer that. I wish I knew why me.
It was Easter Sunday, a special holiday for the Snow family.
My dad was big on family, being together for the holidays and cooking, and he always had Easter baskets for us, and we were always together.
Jamie Snow, his wife Tammy, and their 5 kids went on an Easter egg hunt and then enjoyed a big family dinner.
Did you leave your home that evening and go even near the vicinity of that gas station?
No, absolutely not. No, we spent the whole day together.
But police say there was one thing that stunk more than rotten Easter eggs that day: Jamie's alibi.
Never left the house.
Cops claim Jamie sneaked out of the house around 8 p.m. and ended up on the other side of town at Clark's gas station with his wife's sister-in-law, Susan Claycomb.
The whole thing about Susan was just strange anyway, because she didn't hang out with Jamie, you know. That's the thing, I don't understand where they came up with all this.
Cops say around 8:15 p.m., Jamie, packing a .38 Special, walked into the store demanding money. And when Billy Little, the 18-year-old kid behind the counter, fought back, cops say Jamie pulled out his gun and shot to kill.
You were not at that gas station that day?
Absolutely not. At 8:15 in the evening, when William Little was murdered, we were sitting in our house together as a family.
But it's what Billy did in those last desperate moments of his young life that cops say points them right to Jamie Snow. Ironically, it's also what Jamie claims should absolutely clear him. When the robbery started going down, Billy Little tripped the store's silent alarm. Patrol Officer Jeff Pilo arrives first with his siren silenced. He radios in saying he doesn't see anyone inside the store or in the parking lot. He does spot a man at the air pump filling up his tires. Once inside the store, police find a grisly crime scene: Billy Little's lifeless body behind the register. They also find fingerprints, bullet casings, and bloody footprints. The man at the air pump, Danny Martinez, turns out to be a star witness, telling officers he heard 2 bangs and then saw Billy's killer leaving the store. Jamie Snow says that wasn't him.
No police officer saw a thing?
They didn't see anything. But this guy saw it all.
Martinez helps a forensic artist come up with this composite sketch, describing the man as 5'8" with long brownish hair and stubble. Another witness, Gerardo Gutierrez, tells police he was pumping gas before 8 p.m. and saw a man arguing with Billy inside the store. Here's his sketch, describing the man about 6 feet tall with a mustache, a gold earring, and a bloody cut across his chin.
When you look at the sketches of a man that's supposed to be your dad, doesn't look anything like him.
No.
Neither one of them.
Not at all. It doesn't look anything like my dad or anybody that I know.
And so let's just go over this really quick again so we can kind of get a lay of the land. This is where the gas station was.
Clark's gas station is now a parking lot, but we wanted to see the scene of the crime up close.
One of the star witness, Martinez, was pumping air in his tires, right, somewhere over here.
Yeah, at first he said that a suspect went around the corner, and the second time he said that the suspect came face to face with him and almost ran into him.
And across the street, 2 police officers are approaching the scene of a crime.
Right.
And everybody sees something different. Everybody.
After 3 months, the case goes nowhere. Then, as fate would have it, Jamie, who had a history of run-ins with the law, gets into trouble again. He's locked up briefly for an unrelated crime, obstructing a peace officer.
Tell me about him, some of the stuff in his past that he's not so proud of.
He's like a lot of people. He had a rough upbringing, and it came back and it kind of bit him.
Even though Jamie's fingerprints and shoe prints didn't match any found at Billy Little's murder scene, investigators decide to put Jamie in a police lineup and ask their key witnesses, Danny Martinez and Gerardo Gutierrez, to take a look. Gutierrez doesn't recognize anyone, and Martinez, who claimed to see the killer up close, tells cops it's either suspect number 3 or number 4. That's Jamie Snow, number 6 in the lineup. Instead of clearing Jamie, he says he became Bloomington PD's prime suspect.
When did it start affecting you and your family personally?
You know, the cops kept coming around and they would pull me over every time I left and threaten me and saying, you know, telling us something, or you're gonna go to prison, you're never gonna see your kids grow up.
Jamie offers to take a polygraph test to clear his name once and for all. His court records show he passed. Still, police bring in their star witness Martinez 3 more times to try to identify Jamie out of photo lineups. Martinez fails to ID Jamie every time.
Easy target?
I think easy target. I think overzealous prosecutors and detectives that just wanted to close the case.
Years pass and then a possible break in the case. Investigators say they receive a letter from a jailhouse informant saying he knows who killed Billy Little and he'll snitch if he gets a deal.
Sometimes people will say whatever it is, you know, to help themselves. Do you think that's part of what happened with your dad?
I definitely think so. I think that there's a lot of people that wanted to get a deal. I don't think anybody really believed that there was going to be a man in prison for something he didn't do.
With the informant's testimony in hand, cops bring out their star witness for a 5th time, Danny Martinez. Nearly 9 years after the murder of Billy Little, Martinez finally picks Jamie Snow out of that original lineup.
Most people will be watching this and say, how does something like that happen?
I don't get why they wanted my dad to be the murderer, but they didn't want to find the real murderer. They wanted him.
Jamie is now sitting behind bars at the Stateville Correctional Facility in Joliet, Illinois, a maximum security prison.
I just keep telling myself there's no way that they can convict me for something I didn't do. I was wrong.
Now, 17 years later, he says he's got proof, and the Exoneration Project believes him.
We know that Jamie Snow didn't do it.
No one wants to find the killer of Billy Little more than Jamie Snow.
Tell me how long you have been here at Stateville.
I've been here 17 years.
Saying that feels like what?
It doesn't feel good.
He's been behind these barbed wired walls at Stateville Correctional Center almost as long as the man he's accused of killing, Billy Little, was alive. And he spent every waking minute fighting to prove he was railroaded.
What keeps you going?
Hope. I've got hope. And my family, my kids.
I met your family. They love you so much.
Yeah, I know. And I love them. I'm so proud of them, you know, and they've kept me going. So.
Despite an alibi, no murder weapon ever being recovered, none of his fingerprints found at the murder scene, and a past polygraph, McLean County prosecutors maintain they convicted the right guy. But our Andrea Isom is investigating in Chicago, where the Exoneration Project is claiming the legal system got this one wrong.
The whole conviction is a joke. There was never any proof he had anything to do with it.
Attorneys John Lovey and Tara Thompson have spent years fighting to free the wrongly accused, and now they're out to get justice, not only for Jamie, but for Billy Little, too.
We don't yet know who killed Bill Little, but we know that Jamie Snow didn't do it.
Tara and John began looking for answers, and they say what they uncovered blows the prosecution's case wide open.
What about this one is different?
What's different about Jamie's case is the lengths that the state went to develop a case against him.
Problem 1, the state's star witness, Danny Martinez, who testified at trial he came face to face with Billy's killer that night, yet failed on 4 different occasions to pick Jamie out of a police lineup. Problem 2, the Exoneration Project also discovered the patrol officer at the gas station that night shot down Martinez's entire story. They say that officer testified he didn't see anyone approach Danny Martinez.
This police officer was standing across the street watching him at that exact very moment. There's no way to getting around it. And this isn't my evidence. This is their evidence.
Martinez did finally pick Jamie out of a lineup, but it was 8 years after the murder. And just listen to cops interrogate him just moments before he makes the positive ID.
Do you know a person by the name of Jamie Snow? No, I've never met the person, but I've heard the name around town.
The Exoneration Project claims that's Bloomington detectives leading Martinez to pick Jamie out of that 5th lineup.
You've never seen his face that you're aware of? That I'm aware of. I haven't been. You've just heard his name? Right. I've seen, I don't know if Detective Crow had showed me pictures of him, or if he was one of the guys in the lineup.
Detectives mentioned Jamie Snow's name 5 times in just 8 questions.
Did you know his face? No, not at all.
Cops also said they had a prison snitch who overheard Snow bragging about killing Billy Little.
According to the state's theory, Jamie Snow is essentially, traveling around the Illinois prisons telling people he hasn't seen in years that he killed Bill Little.
The Exoneration Project says that never happened. They claim prosecutors cut deals with informants in exchange for testifying.
They were all desperate people who were given deals and given things to say these things. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, he said he did it. Those are just words, but there's no proof.
In fact, evidence not presented but uncovered by the Exoneration Project reveals all of those so-called informants testifying against Snow were given polygraph tests and failed.
They knew these people were not telling the truth, and they put them on the stand anyway. I mean, they hid the polygraph tests from us and used them anyway.
And now the Exoneration Project is asking another big question. Was the reward money used to motivate the prison informants into testifying?
We know that there were many people who were seeking assistance from the state, people who might have had a motive to testify falsely against Jamie in order to get reward money or to tell the police something that wasn't true in order to get paid. And so we want to know who it is that got that reward money.
They just keep saying, we have no record of it. I don't buy it for a second.
So how did all of these inconsistencies and unanswered questions slip by Jamie's defense team during his trial? Well, that leads to shocking allegations about his defense attorney, claiming during trial, Jamie's lawyer was reportedly holding court at the local bar.
This is not during trial, 2 to 3 alcoholic drinks during lunches.
In this audio recording obtained by Crime Watch Daily, the judge hears a motion accusing Jamie's attorney of being an alcoholic and asking for his representation to be ruled ineffective because of his excessive drinking.
Not only is he an alcoholic, he has mental illness issues. These go back to dates preceding the trial.
And if that's not enough damning evidence, Jamie's attorney was later disbarred after being accused of stealing $200,000 from one of his elderly clients.
We know that Jamie's lawyer had a lot of personal problems during this time, and when you're on trial for your life, that's not the attorney that you want representing you, but that's the lawyer that Jamie got.
He was not prepared. In no way, shape, or form, he wasn't prepared. So here I sit.
This is a case where there's little threads that just don't make sense, and you start picking at those threads and the whole thing unravels, and that's true for Jamie.
Of course, we had a lot of questions for the state's attorney's office about Jamie Snow, and initially they agreed to do a sit-down interview on camera with us about this case. Then they decided to back out.
What McLean prosecutors did tell us is the truth is in witness testimony and hundreds of pages of court transcripts. But as the Exoneration Project began to dig deeper, it found at least 6 of those state's witnesses have since recanted their testimony, and many of those witnesses now believe Jamie Snow is innocent.
When you start examining this case carefully, it just doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
Why pin this murder? Why you?
I don't know how it happened, but it happened.
What happened to Jamie Snow is he was sentenced to hell for a murder he claims he didn't do. A life sentence, not only for him, but his entire family.
No matter how things work out with me, I hope you always remember you have had a dad who loved you always.
How do you think it was so easy for them to do this?
There's no evidence, there's no DNA, there's nothing that actually put him at the crime except for testimony from other people that either got deals or have recanted. So it doesn't make any sense.
In the 17 years Jamie's been incarcerated, he says the case against him has completely unraveled.
What's that evidence?
A good portion of these people have given affidavits now and admitted that their testimony was false.
Jamie and his family are not the only ones claiming he was framed. The Exoneration Project wants him out too.
I defy anybody to meet Jamie Snow and conclude this guy had anything to do with the crime.
In fact, more than 6 of the state's key witnesses against Jamie Snow have now recanted their testimony. The prosecution's prison informants failed polygraph tests, and Jamie's attorney has since been disbarred for unethical behavior.
It's just obvious that the man's innocent.
The Exoneration Project believes police and prosecutors were so desperate to close the Billy Little murder case that they paid off people to implicate Jamie. And now a shocking video has surfaced that just may prove Jamie was indeed a scapegoat.
Part of the state's strategy in this case was to get somebody to flip on Jamie Snow. And so they tried a woman named Susan Claycomb.
Susan Claycomb was Jamie's sister-in-law.
Tell me about Susan.
She is probably one of the strongest women I've ever met in my life. I mean, they destroyed her life.
In the days following Jamie's arrest for the murder of 18-year-old Billy Little, Bloomington police charged Susan with murder, saying she drove the getaway car.
One day they called her down to the state's attorney's office and said, you know, today's the day. You know, if you don't agree to testify against Jamie, you got to go back to jail. And she was like, well, you know, I need to go home and, you know, kiss my kids goodbye and everything. They're like, no.
Prosecutors decided to try Susan first for murder. But according to attorney Lovey, just days before her trial, they made Susan an offer they thought she couldn't refuse. But she did.
Susan was facing the rest of her life in prison, and she stuck to her guns. Strong woman.
Turns out she didn't need a deal. Susan's attorneys picked apart the witnesses' testimony, and she was acquitted. Most of them were the same witnesses that would eventually help convict Jamie of murder. The state will not confirm or deny an offer, but in this parking lot confession shortly before Susan died, she says they offered her probation.
Were you offered any deals, any plea deals to testify against Jamie?
The deal that I was offered, and that I recall being offered, the state said if I could say that I drove the car to convict Jamie to testify in his trial, that then I could go home on probation.
Okay. And you refused that deal?
Yes, most definitely.
Jamie says this tape proves cops targeted him, and then prosecutors came up with a plan to convict him. But there is another piece of physical evidence Jamie's pinning his hopes on. DNA evidence that the Exoneration Project claims was never tested.
There's forensic evidence at the scene that can give us the answer to what really happened. And what's frustrating to me is that, for whatever reason, the people that are in charge of this case don't want to know the truth.
If you're the prosecutor and you believe that I committed this crime, there's not a doubt in your mind, I did it. Why would you not want to test the DNA?
When you convict somebody, there's not supposed to be any reasonable doubt. And there's a lot of reasonable doubt in this case.
So far, 60,000 people have signed a petition to test the DNA, but McLean County prosecutors have not yet re-examined the evidence. They still believe they got Billy Little's killer behind bars.
State's attorney's stance is what?
They don't want further investigation into Jamie Snow's case. And why that is, I can't say. But we've told the McLean County State's Attorney's Office, we're willing to pay for this testing. It won't cost taxpayers in McLean County a dime. We want to do it because we believe in Jamie and we want to know the truth.
Until then, Jamie sits and waits for justice.
Do you think your father will walk out of prison?
I believe so. He has so many supporters. He has so many people that believe in his innocence, and we're not going to stop fighting until he does.
Yes, I know the saying, everybody says all inmates say they're innocent. Sometimes it's true.
Keep the faith.
I am keeping the faith. I absolutely have faith.
And hope.
And hope.